Hey, how's it going? Been a long time, huh? Had a bunch of difficulties with my cameras not uh, uploading MP4s or MP4s. So every camera I had in the house, which is a lot now, I don't even want to go into it, but they all became obsolete at once, including my computer. So I had to get new equipment, and that took a long time because I don't have a lot of dough. And then my phone, which was one of my other cameras, but also had a bunch of other stuff of mine on there, that died, and it's broken and it's irretrievable. I mean, I've got the little card that goes in it, but the phone itself is destroyed. So no phone calls or texts to that number anymore because it's just the the thing doesn't exist. So now I have this other phone, and I know the light is not the best in here, but it's really cold today. And where I normally do this, and I have all my disclaimer signs in the bathroom, it's really cold. I don't want to be in there. So this is for entertainment, not for children. There will be spoilers. I can't think of whatever else. Sorry, this is a lot moving around. This is, whoa. Yeah. So I just got this new little phone stand deal, and the light is just, I'm just trying to, okay, that's probably going to be dark. It looks dark. Let me just make one more adjustment. I don't know, there's like a little small window on this thing. Anyway, so various things were preventing me from coming back and doing this, and then when I got like the kind of equipment, other things were preventing me from doing it, and I thought, man, let me just do it. And I have a lot of stuff in the queue that I want to cover, that I want to like make, don't, that I want to make a video of, but it all seemed like very heavy, and I don't know. I just wasn't in the mood for that. So luckily this came to me, and it's perfect because I've been feeling a little bit like things are unreal and questioning of them, and I know a lot of other people have to be as well. So this was like perfect because it's about the questioning reality. And so today I want to talk about an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine from season 6, episode 18, Inquisition. In this episode, is mainly featuring uh, Dr. Bashir. Um, I'm just going to proceed as if you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to try to explain everything, okay? So, it is the time when there's the Dominion War happening, and there's been a lot of Cardassian against Bajor things, and the station had been taken over, and they just retrieved it from the Kardashians. Kind of was reminding me of like Russia and Ukraine, like wanting to remake that Soviet Union that only the Soviets were all happy about. Like everybody else was so happy to get out of that union. But anyway, there's like my video, my media reflecting reality. And this is from 1993. So, what happens is Julian, Dr. Bashir, is about to go on a medical retreat, convention, or some such thing. And all of a sudden, this Starfleet supervisor of some department, section, whatever, shows up, and he's got this sort of menacing looking security and entourage, and pretty much everybody on the station just like stops still and drops what they're doing to stare at these people, and they don't really look that different from any other regular Starfleet people, except it's in the script for them to be of notice, I suppose. Oh man, sorry it keeps drooping like that. Whoa. We're taking risks today. Okay, let me see if I moisten that. Ooh, sort of hold it in place for a while. So they arrive, everyone notices, and this person says that he's the director of this security division, basically, and it's very ominous. And he just walks on there. Nobody knows who the hell he is, including Captain Cisco. And he says, I'm going to confine all officers to their quarters until further notice. And everybody just does it. And Cisco, even pretty much, I'm assuming he's one of the officers, he doesn't say much about it. He's gone for a while. And so Julian was about to take off to this. Uh, I keep wanting to say retreat because it's at one of the vacation planets, but it's a medical conference. So uh, he is prevented from going now because of he's now locked in his quarters and can't talk to anybody. They've turned off the replicators in case anyone tries to make a gun or something or some kind of weapon. And it's already like you can see the tactics. Like they take away a lot of their abilities to control things that they normally can in their life, like their replicator to like just get breakfast, because that's all Julian wanted. Dr. Bashir wanted when he discovered that the thing wasn't working, and then they call him into it to be interrogated. And they say, "Oh yeah, we turned off everyone's, and so they couldn't make a weapon." So he's in his quarters, and they're like, "Oh yeah, just tell us what we want, and we'll bring it to you." And they send him food for Worf, which is a plate full of worms, and he's ordered scones and tea. So there's another like, let's just mess with you. And then he gets a quick message from, I can't remember the character's name, but it's the actor Cole Meany plays him, and he's like the chief, the mechanic guy. He's in the Next Generation also, I believe. Anyway, or yeah, he is. So anyway, uh, you see what's happening though. Like you've seen these tactics before when like some shadowy like evil nation takes over everywhere else, and they do the fascist thing on you. They do the gaslighting basically. Um, so I thought it was so interesting that Cisco pretty much when he did come back, and Julian or Julian is Dr. Bashir. So anyway, when he does come back and get a chance to speak to Julian, he pretty much like believes what the guy says, Sloan, that he's under suspicion for being a spy. So now he's suspicious, and I thought, well, that's not right. Except that okay, he is taking orders from a superior, I guess, and it's a military thing, and they're kind of conditioned to do that and not question. But it just didn't seem right because I think Cisco is like, I think, I don't know. Everybody on these Star Trek shows are like good officers, but also rebels. So there you go. Cisco is that a great officer, but also a rebel. Anyway, he uncharacteristically like is even though he's known Julian forever, has done like worked in wars with him, like brother in the trench type situation, and he's just now doubting and then just full on suspecting him because this guy that nobody knows who he is, Sloan, came along and said that Julian's under suspicion as a spy for, I think, the Cardassians, because he had gone to a medical conference previously and been kidnapped from it by the Cardassians and imprisoned. And that's what this Sloan guy has a problem with. Okay. So he's interrogating Julian, and he says, "So you were in the prison when you were with the Cardassians?" He's like, "I wasn't with them. I was in prison." And he says, "Well, when you were in prison, you got into some trouble." And he said, "Yeah, I asked for some food or something like that," is what he said. And he ended up in solitary. And so Sloan says, "Well, who'd you meet there?" And Julian says, I'm best paraphrasing here. He says something like, "I was in solitary by myself, and so I didn't meet with anyone." And uh, Sloan just doesn't believe it, and he accuses him of like buddying up with Jem'Hadar, who are also like Dominion people and sort of Star Trek enemies. And the conversation evolves, and then he's accusing Julian, or he's asking him. There's a certain newscaster that asks sort of leading, pointed questions, and he doesn't say straight out like what he thinks, but he insinuates a lot. He insinuate things for you to make inferences of, and it was like that. He would ask him a question, and then regardless of his answer, which was not admitting guilt or anything like that, or like saying that he was admitting that he was a spy, he wasn't doing that. And so, excuse me, he says, "Well, why did you help these other genetically enhanced people?" And that's when it comes out that, like, here's another parallel with reality. This guy is making a marginalized other of Julian for being genetically enhanced, which, geez, dude, like, Google it. He doesn't. Anyway, that's what they try to make, like, the minority of is like genetically enhanced people. Like, they're suspicious. Oh, well, it's illegal, I guess. And Julian's parents did it to him. Like, he didn't do it to himself. They didn't did it to him. So that's also, I think, weird that he should be at fault or some kind of criminal for having something done to him that he didn't have control over. And I think the reason they did it was really like more about them, as parents do, is they wanted to make sure that their child was smart and had all the advantages that they didn't have, and they never like gave him a chance to be that all the way he came unenhanced, But that's a whole nother storyline on another episode. So Sloan says, "Well, why did you like buddy up to these other people?" And he said, "Well, my God, they were imprisoned for so long, and they didn't know anything but the life that they led. Like, I guess they were in prison somewhere else and then stuck in another prison with where Julian was." And he started to introduce them to like what the world was like, what it was about. And he wasn't trying to indoctrinate them. He was trying to like make the shock less. And he says this to Sloan, and Sloan's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, right." So he doesn't want to hear that either. And at some point here, Cisco finally like grows his pair back and comes in, and he's not entirely like behind Julian at this point, but he's finally behaving more like himself and like going, "Look, you can't just come in here and like tell everybody what to do and take things over and say this about this guy. Like, we know him, he's not this way." But then he gets to speak to Julian alone, and he says, "Listen, I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm going to investigate it. Hold on a second." Oh, I have teeth. So, that was him, Cisco, behaving more like himself. And he says that he looked up this guy, and the reason why he's got a hard on is because he left hard on for Julian is because he had a son, Sloan did, in Starfleet that died, and I guess it had something to do with genetically enhanced humans. And then he goes away for a while. So then though that he's finally suspicious and behaving more like himself. And then lots of more accusations by Sloan of now Julian being a spy and not realizing he's a spy. And he's like, "What are you talking about? I have no memories of all of this stuff you're saying." Oh, and that was the other thing. Excuse me, and now I have to back up. When Cisco was talking to Julian, he's like, "How do you know that they haven't done something to you? How do you know that?" Is this on backwards? I guess not. How would you know? Like, as a doctor, do you know if somebody did something to you without your knowledge? And he's like, "Yeah, but like the whole rest of it, it's like not right." The whole time he's professing his innocence. And after that, he is all of a sudden uh, teleported out of his, I want to say quarters, but I think he's still in prison at this point. So, teleported out of his cell to this other being, Wayun. And he has something to do with the founders, the people the species that Odo is a part of, that they're like the liquid people and the shapes. They're like cornstarch and water, that species, but they can make themselves into any shape or go liquid. And um, they're actually part of a huge collective that Odo separated himself from for experience sake. Let's say another episode. Don't want to get sidetracked. Uh, but Wayun has something to do with them. I don't know that he's one of them though, because he has these like weird seashell ears, and he's just a smarmy, slippery. You never know which side of the mouth he's talking out of is telling the truth, if at all. He's some kind of politician, but he snatches Julian, and then he also accuses him of spying. And here was my thought when that happened, was that Sloan and Wayun were working together. And then Captain Cisco and Jadzia and Odo and Kira, I think, all come on the Defiant to rescue. Yes, I know I'm coughing while I'm trying to talk, and I know that it means something. I'm not going to interrupt myself to try and deal with that right now. Um, So, and then they do indeed get him back from Wayun and get him back to DS9. And everyone is suspicious of that. They think he had something to do with it. And it's Cisco, I guess, is struggling with it, or the writer of the script that episode was struggling. Because if I remember correctly, and I watched it 2 times in a row, like yesterday, same day, it wasn't like days in between for me to get it confused, like just earlier, basically. So it's pretty fresh. And it seemed as though he was confused as to whether uh, Julian had something to do with getting himself teleported out, or Sloan was. And Julian was like, or Cisco was like, how could he? He was in the prison. He had no way. And also, Julian was saying, how could I do that? And at least at that point, you understand that Cisco is finally investigating, and where everyone else was Cisco was behind Cisco, Odo, Kira, and Jadzia were like, and the chief, whose name I can't remember, were like back on Julian's side. And then it started to kind of fall apart. Like Sloan tried to say something to Julian about the chief's injury that he came to him with right before he was about to leave on his trip, and he had said that he injured himself kayaking. And then when Sloan brought it up, he said, "Oh yeah, the chief injured himself. Remember, he came to you. He had injured himself on the trampoline." And Julian was like, "Well, that's not what he said." And then he was like, "Wait a minute, this isn't real. You're not real." And then he went to Cisco. He's like, "You're not real because you're not acting right. You weren't suspicious. You believed him over me, etc., etc." Stuff I already said. And so when he starts not just questioning everything, but just like blowing it up, because everyone's behavior was weird, the situation was weird, but when the injury, Miles O'Brien, jeez, finally. So yeah, O'Brien's injury, that was initially the kayak thing that then changed. Julian was like, "You should know that," you know. So the illusion began to crack, and then it just pretty much broke open, and Julian's in the scene resolves to a hollow suite. So he goes, "None of this has been real," and Sloane's like, "Yeah," and but then they go outside, and the station is still locked down, and so like part of it was real and part of it was like a fantasy or a delusion, and this also relates to a portion of society that is becoming larger, where some of us believe one thing that seems to be rooted in reality, and then this other group of people believe a bunch of stuff that seems to be not based in reality at all. But the thing is about that is that, like, stereotypes and uh well, I'll just stick with stereotypes. I can't remember the second example, but oh, and conspiracy theories. Stereotypes and conspiracy theories both have a germ of truth in them. So things may get blown out of proportion or really changed by a telephone game type situation, which is what I feel like is what's happening with this other group that people outside them think they're crazy. The stuff they're talking about is not real. Um, there is some, sorry, getting all up close and personal. There is some truth to what they're saying. There's a lot of nonsense mixed in. There's a lot of people looking to sell, basically based on whatever they can attach to these beliefs, and they've been very successful with the merch sales. Throughout. I mean, this group of people have a whole ecosystem of their own. They have an economy. They have like a religion, or a set of beliefs that a lot of them really are behind. But I've seen it go through so many changes and heard the people talking about it, and it's so much of their own biases and insecurities and whatever else mixed in, that the message has evolved, or not the message so much, but like what they talk about has evolved and changed so much from what it started out to be initially. It's just confusing, and it's a mess. And the thing about it, the thing about both sides really, is that everyone is so entrenched in their beliefs that we're just not really listening to each other. We're so focused on like how crazy we think the other person is, that we're not even. I mean, heck, we go to movies all the time and suspend reality for 90 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it is. We can't just talk to each other and just say, okay, well, they believe something that I can't really buy into, but I mean, I can still talk to them as a person, because they're believing that doesn't really change your life, does it? No, it really doesn't. And that's the thing. We can all believe what we want to believe. We can, because we do. We do it anyway. And we just have this thing that the society has been like waved this way for so long, that it's a real force itself on you situation. Like, I want to do this to your body whether you want me to or not. I want you to do these things because I want you to, whether you want to or not. What you're saying is wrong because I am not going to listen to you whether you're right or not. And we have lost like a lot of like, maybe horny, but love and compassion. It's Those are easy, or maybe they're not easy. I guess it's easier to do the other things where you make an enemy of things, or people that don't agree with your things, and the answer is to eliminate them, like imprison them or kill them, or shoot them, whatever. It's like, wow, life has sure gotten cheap for you over your ideals that you already have and are able to have your life and have your ideas right now. along with the other people over here doing the things that you don't like and agree with. They can still do their stuff all right now. So there's not really a need for anybody to go over and like force their belief or themselves or their violence on the other person, and vice versa. Uh, and my thing has become, in light of all that, I would just like to see everybody when they leave their house come back home. Like every day, when you leave your house, come back home. Whatever's happening outside, whatever who's believing over here, whatever violent thing that someone wants over there, or they want to take from someone or force someone to do that they don't want to do, like, just fine. You have that opinion. Just everyone go home again. Everyone make it home alive, basically. And I think that's what it comes down to. Like, to if you just get rid of all the excess, fine, do your thing. You do you. But can everyone just come home again? We all want that, right? We want to get home alive. Our people want us to come back. That's so much more important than all the other stuff. So, back to the show. Finally, uh, it comes out that this has been a simulation, sort of, and it's another reflection of our world outside on this side of the screen, where there's like this matrix framework situation that a lot of people believe is our lives. Like, it is basically an illusion. We don't remember that though, and or why we're doing it. Why are we living these lives, and why are we having these simulated situations? For the learning experience. Why else? There's no other reason really makes sense to go through all of this stuff. But like on the show, we need to like break free of the illusion, the delusion. And there's a lot of stuff like in life, as in the show, that you're just questioning the reality of. I do also, but it's on a whole other set of stuff that I haven't even mentioned, that it's not as out in the culture as a Star Trek, or you know, actions and protests and things like that have been happening in reality, or just whatever is happening in reality, but they tend to reflect each other, which is why I like to talk about this. So, um, everything pretty much gets back to normal, back to um, what you would expect from Star Trek. But there was a couple of inconsistencies in the show that were like, I guess, a Mandela effect within the show type situation. Where, if you remember, I said that uh, Cisco had found that uh, Sloane's son had died while an officer, a member of Starfleet, and it was supposedly due to something to do with a enhanced human. And then, as the show was ending, Cisco says that he looked up Director Sloan, Deputy Director Sloan, or whatever it was, for Section 31, which is their secret agency, and no such person exists that he could find on record. But it's one of those situations where out of sight, out of mind, I guess. Like, we have our secret agencies too. And they even mention this in the show. Then they talk about how, like, the Klingons and, uh, I don't know, let me see, what were the other races? Did I even write that down? I bet I didn't. But it was two other species you see on Star Trek all the time. Um, Tal Shiar, which I think is the Klingon one, and then I can't remember the other one that I'm thinking of. But we have them too. Like, when we had our last president, so many intelligence agencies popped out of the woodwork that I had never been aware of before. That I was like, wow, what do we even need so many for? And what are they doing? Investigating each other? Well, that would not be a good idea because you don't want your police policing themselves. That's a circular terribleness. Anyway, I guess that's it. I just wanted to talk about those little issues there, and let me see if I'm missing anything else here. Check my notes. Oh, I wanted to focus on Sloane, and now I have to do it really quick because I want to wind up here. But Sloane was played by William Sadler. Like the rest of the cast, just normal people you would expect to see. But I want to talk about when, like, remember I said how when they stepped onto the station, it was like with a menacing tone. Okay, well, for one thing, they would just look like regular officers, but this isn't to do with Sadler directly, but with Sloan. Every time you saw him, his outfit changed, and it got darker and more menacing and scary, and you want to think things like SS, and then by the last scenes, he'd gone from like Star Trek officer uniform with like colors and like fabric to this black leather covered, you know, head to foot like bondage pinhead outfit or something. And it had the scary shoulders that like the Romulans have, where they're all pointy and stick up. And the Star Trek movie, I cannot remember the name of it, but it was the one where Picard had a clone son that was Tom Hardy and Data died, I think. I want to say Insurrection, but I know that's not it. God, I'm not gonna look it up because it's real easy for you to if you look up Star Trek. Now I can't think of the guy that plays Jean Luc Picard, the actor's name. Well, that guy and Tom Hardy, or Star Trek and Jean Luc clone son. You'll find it, or just look up Star Trek movies and look for the one with Tom Hardy in it. That's the one. But the Tom Hardy character, which I just realized is so much like the Bane character in Batman, like their background. Sync. But anyway, he wore an all like long sleeve, full on head to, shoulders to the ankles, leather suit with these pointy shoulders. So, and that's how you knew he was bad. Same with Sloane. So, okay, back to William Sadler. When I looked, oh, so yeah, like that all showed you that Sloane was gonna be evil because his outfit just kept getting darker and darker. And I say outfit because it was like he was Mick Jagger in a concert. He changed every time to change. His clothes changed every time the scene did. Like the next scene he was in, he was wearing something different and darker. Okay, but Sadler, I personally immediately thought Menace when I saw him because he's a good character actor. He's a great character actor, and he's played a lot of villains. So when I knew I wanted to highlight his work, and I looked on the and when I looked on the IMDb, oh my god, uh, I saw that his first credit was from 1977 when I was 11 or 12, and it was some CBS youth uh, artist thing, some kind of special. But he was in the original Roseanne, the original Murphy Brown, St. Elsewhere, The Heat of the Night, Law and Order, probably every version. And I didn't need to look that up. I've seen them all. He's been in all of them. Uh, The Blacklist, Blue Bloods, Bill and Ted from 2020, also Bill and Ted from 1991, where he played the Grim Reaper. I'm assuming he played the same character in the 2021 since I haven't seen it yet. Grim Reaper, that's a comedy, so you may come across as silly, but still, that's like a bad guy usually, right? He was in the Comey Reel. He played. the Comey rule. Excuse me. He played a suit. I remember that. To a politician or something. Uh, and then the he was also in HBO's Barry. This is the last one that I'm going to name, and this the listing had the title of an episode, and it was a stage of Twilight. Well, Barry's, I really loved it. I remember that, and you know, Henry Winkler is so wonderful in it. Love Bill Hader. Love Bill Hader. Sorry, Bill Hader's wife is not like that. I like his work. Uh, but it's been so long since Barry was on because of the pandemic that I don't remember what that episode would have been about. I barely remember what the show's about, except that I think Barry's not who he says he is. Uh, and things go really to heck at the end of that last season. I'm pretty sure there was some chaotic business happening. Anyway, Sadler's been around, but I know that I've seen him be a sort of menacing gangster in the Bonnie and Clyde era type film, and maybe stuff like The Sting, probably. I mean, he would have been in stuff like that, and it's really interesting that he doesn't seem to be aging. Just thought I'd mention it, no particular reason. So that covers everything. I wanted to talk about that show because I feel like right now I'm not necessarily questioning reality, but I feel like a lot of people must be, because a lot of the people that have been in front of you for like most of your life, that who you trust, who you go to, like your news person, that's all falling apart because you're seeing that half the time the news is not telling you half the news that's out there, and the news they do tell you has a certain slant, and thank goodness people are noticing that. But people may be at the stage too where they're questioning, am I really seeing that? Is that what I'm really seeing? I don't know. It's real clear if you watch Fox News. Like that Fox News, as far as I'm concerned, seriously clashes with reality. And it's not even news. It's, I don't want to go there, but yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, like the group of people I talked about before that have all these beliefs that are not necessarily popular, but it's spreading though. A lot more people are taking it up, and I feel like it's a telephone game because the group of people that I'm talking about, what they've talked about has changed over the years so much, except for about a couple of things. But even that has changed. So I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to get in trouble on the tube. But I will say, like I said before, like every conspiracy theory, there is a grain of truth. There were more than a grain. Like they have their own whole ecosystem. They have like a society. They have an economy, and it's built on merch. Like those people will sell you merch about any of that stuff. And the sad thing is, not much of it is worth your money, and that makes me sad. But I'm hoping that they'll notice, because I'm hoping that when they notice their money is just being taken, that it'll make them think twice about listening to these people, and maybe also be able to discern that nothing is one thing or the other. There's truth to what they believe and what they say, and there's not truth, but that also is the reality in the whole rest of the world. So I don't know. I was having a hard time coming back for various reasons, technology and emotional and blah blah blah. But yeah, I'm back. So yay! Started out with something familiar. Thank you and good night.